Hello everyone! Welcome back to part 2 of the differences between the US and Japan video. My name is Ash and I like anime. I used to teach in Japan for 1 year. I decided to make a series of just the differences I found while I was over there. So yeah, oh, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to this channel and hit the little notification bell so that you are informed of when I post, because I don't have a regular posting schedule, but I'm working on it. Oh, and follow me on Instagram because I usually ask everyone questions or take polls of what they would like to see on my channel. So be sure to do that so you have a voice in what you see. Alright, so this video is dedicated to my daily living in Japan. So let's get into it. We're gonna start with Japanese apartments. Obviously, while I was in Japan, I had to live somewhere. So the company that I worked for provided me with an apartment in the prefecture of Saitama. So Saitama, if you don't know, is right next to Tokyo. It's east of Tokyo, and I lived on the border, so I was really close to Tokyo. So I lived in Saitama, but I worked in Tokyo. And obviously I can only speak for the apartment that I lived in and my friends' apartments as well. So yeah, and because Tokyo is the most densely populated prefecture in Japan, it makes sense that all of the apartments are pretty tiny. Many of my adult students have even mentioned that like the places that they live in, whether it's an apartment or a house, is pretty small compared to, you know, the houses and places that they've seen abroad. I'll show you a picture looking down my hall as soon as you open the door to my apartment, and I'll show you a little video of my room. And yes, I did sleep on a tatami that was on the floor for a year. So yeah, my apartment only had the one room. My tatami was on the floor. I hear tatamis are really good for your back, and I believe I laid on my tatami for 2 weeks, just my tatami by itself. But after those 2 weeks, I woke up like a little sore. To be honest, it was a little hard, so I decided to go to Don Quixote, which is another thing that's great about Japan. It's this huge store, or well, it depends on which location you go to. The Don Quixote in Asakusa is massive, but regular Don Quixotes maybe aren't as big, but they're still relatively big for stores in Japan. Anyway, in Don Quixotes you can get pretty much anything. Like, think of a Walmart but better, like 10 times better in my opinion. So one floor can have groceries, one floor can have, you know, toiletries and over-the-counter medicines, another floor will have like clothing, what else, just a number of things. So yeah, I went to Don Quixote and I bought like a memory foam mat, like about 3 inches I want to say, that I could put, that I could easily put like on top of my tatami mat, and then just put my sheets over the tatami mat and the memory foam mattress, so that way it was a bit more comfortable for me. So yeah, I would say a good amount of people still sleep on tatamis. A few of my coworkers, they went to Nitori, and Nitori is basically Japan's version of an IKEA, and they went to buy Western beds because tatamis, you know, it's a little rough to sleep on, especially if you're not used to it. But yeah, I enjoyed my little tatami, so I didn't get a bed. I didn't want to bother either. So there's a whole process for buying furniture in Japan. Anyway, going back to tatamis though, fun fact, you know how apartments in America are measured by square feet? Well, in Japan, they're measured by tatamis, meaning how many tatami mats can fit in your apartment. I had no idea until like after orientation when we were getting, you know, our living arrangements. So I saw my coworkers, they, you know, had like a number written to tatami size. I was like, what does that mean? And they told me, you know, that's how big your apartment is. I was like, whoa. So obviously if you were living in Tokyo or in a city-like area, the size will be smaller. But when I got my paper, it didn't have any size written next to it, so I had no idea what to prepare for. Anyway, fun fact. If you're from Japan, or if you lived in Japan for a long time and you see the pictures and the video of my apartment, can you please tell me like what the estimated tatami mat size would be? I'd be very intrigued to know. Thank you. Alright, next is dryers. So in my apartment, obviously, like, I had a washing machine, but there is no dryer. So that's the case for a lot of apartments in Tokyo or the Tokyo area, because most people just air dry. It's, you know, environmentally friendly, and it doesn't waste as much electricity. So yeah, you usually see people hanging their clothes on a clothesline. Or so I actually found out after I left Japan that there's a function in my bathroom. There's a box with buttons and different functions on it for my shower room. Obviously it's all in Japanese, it's in kanji, and I can't really read kanji. So I never really bothered with it. My boss, who came to my apartment and dropped me off and like showed me, you know, the different things that I need to know within my apartment, she only showed me pretty much the vent function. So that was the only thing I knew about. But apparently there's a setting where you can actually have the air blowing and it acts as a dryer for your clothes. I was like, what? I had no idea. I think my fiance saw a video on it and he's like, Ashley, you have the same thing in your apartment. I'm like, damn, I wish I knew, because I bought a whole drying rack for my clothes, and it took up, if you see my room, you know it's small, so like it took up a good chunk of my room, because I had to, you know, open it up, and then like it has a bunch of things to hang my clothes on. So yeah, I would have to wait for hours, like, you know, a whole day to pass by for my clothes to dry up. So yeah, would have been nice, but it's fine. It's fine. Next, moving on to trains. I use the train every day. The train was literally like a 2-minute walk away from my apartment building. I could hear the train, I could see it leaving, it was right there. But yeah, so I mainly rode on the metro lines, but as you go towards like Tokyo Center, then you'll switch over to like the JR lines. Anyway, when you're lining up for the metro or when you're lining up for trains, everyone lines up in an orderly fashion. You know how in New York it's like super crowded, super packed, there's no order to it, like madness. People are on top of each other, no personal space. Yeah, free for all. But in Japan, it's very, like I said, very organized. You'll usually see little foot stickers right where the line begins, and you'll see designated markers for where the train doors stop. Courtesy dictates that everyone who's on the train gets off first, and then everyone else, obviously, who's waiting for the train gets on after everyone gets off. And there are women-only carts too. It's only during designated times though. So for example, during rush hour, you'll usually see there's women-only carts. They're usually at the ends of the trains, because there's actually low-key a problem with like some creepy guys. From what I hear, like majority of the time it's adhered to, but you know, you do get people who, or men who come onto the train, maybe if they're late for work or something, or they just, you know, disregard the women-only cart. I don't know, but yeah, that's a thing. And everything is super clean, and it's because the trains, they shut down at night. So in New York City, for example, the trains are 24/7, always running, but in Tokyo they shut down maybe around like a bit after midnight, sometimes even 1 a.m. So there's always a last train, and then it shuts down until maybe like 5 in the morning, I want to say. So if you miss your last train, you were kind of should have a look until the morning. Oh, but if you do miss your last train, you can always, well, it also depends if you're in a populated area, you can find sometimes like manga cafes, or like some kind of cafes where you can go in and even like rent out a little room to read or do whatever. And sometimes people go to those and crash sleep until, you know, the morning time, and then just go about their day on the train, or take a taxi. But taxis are very expensive at that time of night, especially if you have to go far, because Tokyo is really big. You can be on a train for 2 hours and still be in Tokyo. And also with the trains, all of the signs that I have seen in Tokyo and in Saitama have also been in English, so it is very easy to navigate as well. Also, speaking of taxis, before. People drive on the left side of the road. So if you didn't know that, now you know. And if you're getting into a taxi, do not touch the doors because they are automatic. So they'll open automatically for you and they'll close automatically. So there's no need to like pull and tug at it, because if you do that, then it might break and you might actually get fined for it. So be careful. Now, for errands, like running to the grocery store, grocery shopping can be pretty expensive. It could be cheaper to eat out instead of buying groceries. For example, buying one singular pepper, and this pepper is wrapped in plastic individually, by the way, in my local grocery store. One pepper is around $2. $2 for one pepper. One! So, yeah, crazy. And fruit, oh my god, forget about it. Like blueberries, strawberries, also expensive. Yeah, I've spent a lot of money on groceries. So you might as well just go to a konbini and eat a little something from there. It's pretty cheap at konbinis. And also at Yoshinoya or like other little chains and things like that that have good, cheap fast food. Not fast food as in the typical like McDonald's or things like that, but fast food is in like it's prepared pretty quickly. Another errand, so taking out the trash. In my apartment building, they give you a calendar and a schedule for what days to take out what kinds of recycling or garbage. So for example, on Tuesdays, that was the day to take out my combustibles. So at home, I would have to, you know, separate my trash and my recycling between combustibles, non-combustibles, like glass and cardboard, things like that. So yeah, I had to be cognizant of my trash and my recycling. Whereas in the States, you know, you have the option to recycle or not. We should all be recycling like that, by the way. But yeah. And last but not least for this little video on daily living is pocket Wi-Fi. So let me explain what that is. I think I actually have it with me. Yes, I still have it with me. So this bad boy was my lifesaver because obviously while I was living over there, I had to have a cell phone, but I didn't need to call anyone really. I basically just needed a cell phone plan for data. So yeah, with the phone company that I had to go with, they didn't really have like an unlimited data plan. So I had to go with this thing called pocket Wi-Fi, and pretty much as you can imagine, it's just I carry this little thing with me wherever I go, and wherever I go I have Wi-Fi as long as that's near me. I carried it with me everywhere I went. I believe it only worked, or it worked the best in the Tokyo area. So if I left Tokyo, I believe it wouldn't really work or be super slow. So yeah, I lived on pocket Wi-Fi the whole time, and in my house too. I didn't have, you know, internet hooked up into my apartment because I figured 1 year wasn't really that long to kind of dedicate, you know, having someone come in to install Wi-Fi into my apartment. So yeah, that's pretty much it for now. Those are the things I can think of. A lot of the other things that I can think of that happen like during my day-to-day life, I think I'm gonna do in my next video because I feel like it fits more appropriately under a cultural differences category. And I feel like even the cultural video might be in separate parts. Because there are tons of differences for that as well. And of course I want to like throw in some little anecdotes and things like that, and I want to do it justice as well. I want to really paint the picture of what it was like living in Japan. So yeah, that's all for now. Thank you so much for watching up until this point. If you have reached this point, don't forget to comment if you want me to elaborate on anything else, or if you have any questions about what I just talked about. And I will see you in the next one. Remember to wear your mask and always keep chasing light. Bye!